And like Chili's ribs, baby, we back because this is a Twilight Zone breakdown that y'all have been asking me for since at least November of last year for relevant reasons. This is season 4, episode 4 of the Twilight Zone. He's alive. Y'all already know I'm doing it the way that I know how to do it so that we can do it and do it. The episode starts and I'm already over it because why would they pan at this thermostat and it is 90 degrees outside? This man is feeding his cat. His cat is even sweating. It is so hot. Only for them to pan. And instead of people being like, it's so hot out here, I don't want to do anything or say anything, there is a man downstairs spewing some of the most ignorant garbage I have ever heard in my life. His name in the episode is actually Peter, but I'll be referring to him as Hopper from A Bug's Life because all the stuff that he's spewing is just out of fear and he has zero talent. And it's pretty obvious. Now, I just told you it is 90 degrees outside. Hopper got on 16 layers of clothes. He is up there just spewing hate about how all Africa and other countries do is beg for money. And he don't understand why we even listen to them and we need to be focused on America first. Mind you, as he's spewing his hate, he is pointing to people that he believes could be from those regions. He points to a black man and is like, they all lead to Africa. And when people do that, this is always my first question. Yes, he's definitely a descendant of somebody from Africa. How'd he get here? Quickly. How he get here? Specifically because this man is obviously Black American. So I'm very confused. But Hopper is obviously gonna ignore their little 400 years of that. He even calls out the Vatican at one point. But here's the thing. The man don't know what he's talking about. He's not confident. And the other people that are with him are kind of looking at each other like, girl, here he go again. Is it? My wife got them ribs on. You ready to go? Mind you, I just want to point out everybody is sweating profusely. I've never understood how people can be so mean and hateful in full regalia and sweating. That don't make you want to be a little bit nicer. Anytime it is over 80 degrees outside, I am reminded, this so hell could be hotter than this. I'm a little bit kinder on those days. I don't know about y'all. Hopper even says that anybody that comes from these other countries just wants to infiltrate into our economic stability. Quickly. How it gets stable. Quickly. So finally, somebody in the audience goes, you got all this mouth up there, but you ain't gonna do nothing. Come down here and do something about us being here. All you doing is sitting up here yelling in a suit that's too tight in 90-degree weather outside in the dark. But he don't hear him because at the end of the day, this man is programmed to believe that things are being taken from him from people who are infiltrating his neighborhood. He still hasn't answered how the black people who are infiltrating got there in the first place. Couldn't answer that question. Mind you, the people who are also in his little clique or whatever, they don't look too impressed by the things that he's saying. They don't even look confident in what he's saying at all. This is when we get somebody who throws a literal tomato at him. I have never seen somebody literally go, boo, tomato, literally. So this is how it's going in his neighborhood for him. Nobody respects him. Nobody even wants to hear what he got going on. And his own clique don't even believe in what he's saying. But they still standing there. And that's the problem, is that despite them not agreeing what he's saying, they're still standing there. I'm gonna keep this family friendly, but y'all see it. Mind you, he get off that ladder after somebody throws that tomato at him. He goes to punch the person that he's been yelling at the entire time and misses. How you gonna be talking all that mouth and ain't got no buck in your nuck? That is so interesting to me. I want that studied. Because the Book of Crime Mob said nuck if you just happen to be buck. I don't understand why he thought that he was buck because his nut completely missed this man's jaw. Mind you, all of Hopper and his fellow grasshoppers from The Bug's Life end up fighting the crowd. And by end up fighting the crowd, I mean they're getting beat up. Not a single Hopper won this fight. In fact, the guy who he was messing with ended up knocking him out cold. Now, I'm not leaned in yet because I'm like, all right, this is just par for the course at this time in America. So, girl, when does this get interesting? But you just wait. Because Rod gave us a treat. And the person that beats him up says something that my grandmother always said. Your mouth was writing a check that your behind couldn't cash. Don't let me catch you out here anymore with you and your little spineless friends. The police are like, all right, child, what done happened out here? You spewing that mess and you got beat up. Who did it? Hopper is like, it was the communicators is what we're going to call them. And he's like, what? Okay, well, I don't know what that is, but you need to give me some names if you want anything. I also want to call out that there's a black cop that's also with this cop, and he just kind of standing there the whole time like, that's what y'all get. You know, he ain't trying to help too much, and I don't blame him. But then the other cop comes up and he's like, you forgot your flag, and drops it before he can give it to Hopper's friend. Hopper's friend is like, that's all right. One day you're all going to bow to us and you're going to be the person that's out on the outside, not us. This cop looked at him and said, baby, if that day ever comes, I'll take myself out first. I hollered. I got to break the fourth wall for just 2 seconds because I'm actually recording this as I'm watching it. This man's so damn lame. I ain't never seen somebody so lame. Actually, I have. But the issue is that what they are showing is that behind the curtains, it's just weakness. There is no strength. There is no confidence. Weak is the best way to put it. So child, Hopper and his friends obviously lost. They walk around the corner. One of their friends has been hiding behind a garbage can since the police came. I said, yeah, these are the people who are going to save your neighborhood. Anyway, they basically kind of look at each other like, well, that was an L. And the guy who was hiding goes, you know, I told you, whenever it's a hot night, you're not going to get through to him. He sits down on this ground and starts to pity himself. And he's like, I couldn't get through to him. Not a single person. I didn't have the words to be able to convey the hate that I was feeling. What? And he even goes as far to say, someday they're going to listen. Someday they're going to have to cheer. That's what this is about. That's what this is about. You're a loser who does not have the charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent to make people believe what you are saying, because what you saying is some exactly, y'all said it for me. And of course, one of Hopper's friends is like, one day they will. One day they will cheer for you. And I'm like, you know what? I hope I ain't never got no friends like y'all, because I don't want my friends to gas me up over something that's dumb. So Rod certainly comes on and he's like, niece, this is Peter, but apparently you calling him Hopper. All Hopper has is a lack of confidence and a mouth. And what we are going to do is take him in his mouth and put him in the Twilight Zone so that he can meet the person he thinks he wants to be. And that's when I leaned in, because I said, babe, who he about to meet? Now, I know a couple of folks that I would have loved for him to meet, but I can't say that on the internet. You know how disappointing you got to be for you to get home and Grandpa Joe look you in the face and say, girl, go wash your face. We know that you got toe up because you get toe up every time you go out there. What is new? This man looks at him and goes, it's not a war wound. Just put some iodine on it when you get home. I'm telling you, Grandpa Joe sees right through this weak man, because he's like, child, you want some coffee? What you want? Of course, Hopper is like, I'll take a drink if you got it. Grandpa Joe's like, I got wine. Is that okay? Like, girl, I know you ain't got no class, but I do have a Cabernet for you if you want that. He goes into this kitchen, get this wine out this cabinet, pours him maybe like 3 ounces and goes, and you can tell he's looking at him like, oh no, you actually got beat up. Why did he pour him 3 more ounces after that? And this is when you hear the accent of the person who is talking to him and is helping him. And I heard the accent of someone who is German or who is from like Eastern Europe. And that's when I leaned in, because I said, what's going on in here? He gonna piss me off on this day in here. This is when we learn that he's actually known this man since he was a child. And this man goes, I've known you since you were a kid knocking at my door crying. I had pity for you then. Now I don't. In addition to that, we also find out that he is going to be staying at his house, and that like he does that sometimes. And he's like, you're a good friend, man. I really appreciate you. And though he calls him his friend, Uncle Joe quickly goes, the things that you spew on that corner, I do not understand. And he's like, it's not hate though. It's just a philosophy. It's the way that I think about things. And I feel for Grandpa Joe in this, but he is being too kind. Because the way I would have kicked him up out of my kitchen when I saw that he had a whole hate label on his clothes. No, baby, you got to get on up out of here. I'm so sorry. I don't care that we friends. I don't care that I've known you since you was a baby. Hey, I'm about to know you at your funeral, because you ain't going to be up in here spewing that. I will knock you off that balcony. He says we can be friends and have differences of opinions. Differences of opinions is I don't like pineapple on my pizza. Not you don't belong here. Get out. What? This is when Grandpa Joe tells us, no, we fundamentally disagree because I spent 9 years in Dachau for the things that you are saying. And this is when I said, you know what, Grandpa Joe, you a lot better than me, baby, because I would have laced that wine with as much arsenic as I can fit in there. And then when the police asked, hey, he has really high levels of arsenic in his body. Yeah. That's crazy. Wow. Arsenic. Who got that? Because please don't piss me off in my own living room, knowing what I've been through. Grandpa Joe straight up says, you know what? Yes, I am just as soft as the people that you are talking about on that corner. I should have kicked you out when you started spewing this mess in the first place, but I didn't. So I must be the worst of the type of people that you are referring to. I want y'all to understand that the entire time he's saying this, Hopper is just sitting on the couch crying. He just sitting on the couch crying. I'm sorry. I thought if you were going to lead the next mass movement, you needed to have a little bit of guts about you. Why you always sitting over here sobbing the whole time somebody telling you about yourself? You ain't winning nothing with that. Girl, stand up. Believe in your ignorance. And that's the problem. They don't actually believe in it. They just scared. Because that's what fear is. Fear is not confidence. It's fear. Don't get me started in here on this day, girl. We ain't even a fourth way through. This is an hour episode. And this is when it becomes clear. Grandpa Joe only sees the child when he looks at Hopper. He doesn't see the grown, hateful person he's ended up being. He sees the kid. He sees the innocence. And that is the problem. Because you gotta see people for who they are now, currently. I understand grace, but damn. In his tearful rant, Hopper tells us that his father was an alcoholic and used to slam him against the wall. Surprise, surprise. What's the old African proverb? The child that the village ignores will burn it down to feel its warmth. There it is. The child the village ignored, ladies and gentlemen. Turns out his mother was also similar to Helga Pataggy's mom. Just dumb and also drinking. And he tells Grandpa Joe, you've been more like my father than anybody else. Why, if he's like your father, are you outside saying these things? I'm very confused. So Hopper goes to sleep in his friend's living room. He is awakened in the middle of the night by somebody outside. He goes, he stands up, he opens up the window, and this is the person who is standing outside. And Hopper goes, who's there? This person responds, a friend. And I said, oh, hell. And that's when I leaned in even further because I said, I know who you are, girl. We all do. It ain't Satan, but it's adjacent. That's what he'll be called this whole adjacent Satan. Adjacent Satan tells him to come downstairs in the middle of the night. Mind you, he don't know who this person is, and he comes down there anyway. Survival skills are at an all-time low because not only are you a terrible person, you don't have any confidence, you are afraid of your own shadow, you can't fight, and you are currently staying in the living room of someone who raised you because your parents were raging alcoholics. A true credit to society, this one. My God, today. Now, the entire time adjacent Satan is talking to him, he's blacked out. You never see his face, but we, the viewers, know who this is. He's the leader of a certain 1930s regime, if you know what I mean. And that's specifically for some of my followers who be asking questions in the comments. And I'm like, baby, you didn't know who that was the whole time I was talking about him? I love y'all, but some of y'all crack me up deep, deep. So adjacent Satan tells him, your tears led me here, which sent me because what? Yeah, we know. He been crying the whole damn episode. And he says, we believe in the same things. Your success would be my success. So adjacent Satan starts to tell Hopper, let's talk about how you move a mob. What are the dynamics of a crowd? And he has no idea. Hopper's like, I don't really know. Of course you don't. I'm really having to stop myself from saying very unkind things about this man. This is a character, but also it's not really a character. So of course, adjacent Satan is like, of course you don't know anything about a mob. Okay, you have to speak to them as if you are one of them. That's your issue. You're not putting yourself in their crowd. You are not talking to the poor as someone who's poor. And you're not talking to people who are angry as someone who's also just as upset. You have to remind them that everyone who they're calling a minority is wrong. We are actually the minorities. And he tells him to use the word we. This is some dangerous damn rhetoric here. But I know exactly what Rod is doing because my uncle has never let us down. I was not expecting him to have a picture of adjacent Satan behind him while he spoke in the next scene. So Hopper starts to practice literally that night. In the next scene, you see him in a room, now reiterating everything that adjacent Satan told him with pictures of people who are icons of hate behind him and next to him. And it just so happens that everybody in the room with him listening look alike. That's ironic, isn't it? He says that patriotism and love of country is a minority at this point, and everybody in the room is nodding. This man's so damn lame. I can't get over how lame he is, and I'm so glad that this is what they depicted, because yeah, it's this. I also want to call it that this actor is fantastic, because I do not like him, and if I was to see him in another movie, I would automatically associate him with this role. That's how I know you're good. Lawrence Fishburne is another person. I know that he is not Ike Turner, but that's who I saw whenever I looked at him. Also, the guy who played Voldemort and the kid who played Joffrey. Hate, loathe entirely, can't stand them. It's irrational, I know. Now, he takes a Jason Satan's advice and gives this speech. And at the end of this speech, everyone claps. And this is when he's like, okay, so I actually do need to listen to this person because they knew what they were talking about. It still ain't clicked. He still doesn't understand who a Jason Satan is. After everybody leaves, you can tell that they have been renting out this hall or whatever from a guy for a couple of weeks. The guy comes up to them. He's like, y'all owe me rent money. I don't understand why I haven't been paid in several weeks. It's $200. Hopper essentially tells him that they're a young, scrappy startup and they don't have the money right now. So Hopper and his gang kind of get together and they're like, we can make an example out of him, boss. Right in time for one of Hopper's friends to come back with an envelope that has $200 in it. And he's like, where you get this from? Of course it was an anonymous drop, because we know where it came from. Hopper doesn't even think about it. He calls the owner over and he's like, here's your money, and drops it on the floor in front of the guy. Now, this is when I would have taken that money and still kicked them out. But again, a lot of people in this episode are giving them grace, and I don't understand why. In the next scene, a Jason Satan has made his way back into the room. And Hopper is like, yo, did you give us $200? Thank you for that. Baby, a Jason Satan is like, girl, you ate that up. Thank you. It's the least that I can do, honestly. Now, a couple of things for next steps. He goes right into like, all right, you did good, but now we need to move on to step 2. Now, this was interesting to me. He tells him, now you need a martyr. You need someone who is unalived because of your cause and because of what you believe in, but it's on your side. And then he tells him, in fact, call Frank in here and tell Frank, which is one of Hopper's friends, that Nick has been talking mess to the cops about y'all and is trying to rat y'all out. So Jason Satan makes Hopper turn on one of his friends. Frank comes back in there. He tells Frank, hey, Nick has been ratting us out. I need you to get rid of him and make it look like somebody else did it. Not us, though. Nick is a fool. So Nick is like, okay, that's kind of crazy, but I guess I'll go ahead and do that for you. Baby, in that next scene, when them cops roll up, Nick is outside resting in panic on that ground. Do you hear me? And on his shirt is pinned a piece of paper that says a good 4-letter word that is from the 30s. And so step 2 is done. Frank goes in. Frank lets Hopper know that the deed has been done. He goes back into the room and a Jason Satan is sitting there slow clapping because he's like, yeah, babes. Again, you ate that up. Step 3. I'm going to tell y'all this right now. I don't see how Rod got this greenlit. This is nuts. I often wonder if there was a black woman on Rod Serling's team, like, add this. Hey, you should say this. Some of these episodes give that. He basically told this man, don't mourn the wicked, even though he the wicked that made the wicked. Now, this is when it gets even more interesting, and I don't know why I'm whispering, but I feel like I got to spill this tea. You know that they had those 3 pictures up behind. Now they have the martyr's picture also in the room, but only Frank and Hopper know what actually happened. So Hopper goes backstage and another one of their friends is there and he's visibly upset, right? He goes, Nick was my friend. Hopper's like, Nick was not a friend. He was a fat pig that lied and got what he had coming. And I said, oh, you're actually sick. Like there's something wrong with you for real, which we knew that, but it's just crazy when you see it all come together. So now they have basically a memorial of the person that Hopper got rid of, but to everyone else, they officially have a martyr because he was killed just doing what he believed in. This is when he gives his second speech that was essentially written by Jason Satan, but ain't nobody knowing about that. Anyway, he goes, this man died for what he believed in, and he has to live in all of us. We are now living for the things that he died for. And I'm just going to have a silent conversation with y'all for just 2 seconds. If you get it, you'll get it. Okay, yeah. Because, yeah. Thank you for that conversation. We really needed to vent about that for just 2 seconds. They don't specify how far in the future this is, but we go to a shop across the street from his next outdoor speech location. And Grandpa Joe is in there with the store owner. And the store owner goes, "You knew him, didn't you?" He's like, "Yeah, from a young kid, but that person that's across the street, I don't know who that is." And the store owner is like, "Yeah, people used to laugh at him, but now people are kind of listening, and I'm afraid of that. I don't know that they're listening to what he's actually saying." And this is when it hits both the store owner and Grandpa Joe that this could be a revival of something that they've both lived through. And Grandpa Joe goes, "Not again, though. We can't do that again, right?" And I looked at Grandpa Joe and said, "Child," and had the same conversation I just had with y'all with my eyes, with him through the screen. In the next scene, they're back inside the hall that he had to borrow $200 from adjacent Satan to keep. And he's like, "I want you to answer yes or no to the following questions. Do you want this country to remain free?" Everybody goes, "Yes." Then he asked them, "Do you want your houses infected with the vermin from foreign shores?" First of all, don't piss me off, okay? Unfortunately, everybody in the room says no. I'm gagged. I'm watching this live, y'all. Grandpa Joe done walked into the... Oh my God, he gonna make him say this speech while he there? Excuse me, that really just lifted my wig. So child, while he is speaking, Grandpa Joe walks into the speech. And it's like, "Go on. Tell him. Finish your speech." When I tell you Hopper is looking at him like Dollar Bill was looking at St. Louis in Players Club when he came asking for that money. My God, today, this is fear. And also a little bit of disappointment in itself, which finally bring back shame. I want the type of shame that they gave Cersei brought back. Shame. That's what I need. I want pointed boobs brought back. He reading him for filth during his own speech in front of his own followers. I was about to call them something that... He tells them that this whole movement is a cheap copy of the one that he actually experienced. He is dragging these folks for filth, and I loved every second of it. He said, "Baby, this ain't even the real one. I got the real one in the trunk. Y'all want to see hatred? I got the scars to show you what hatred actually is." They coming over to Hopper talking about do something about it. We losing the audience. Baby, you never had the audience in the first time. Everybody in the audience looked dirty, and this is black and white. Everybody in the audience look like they ain't taken a shower in 6 days, and this is in black and white. You never had them. You know what? I'm trying to keep this family friendly, but they pissing me off. Baby, Grandpa Joe walked up in here and laid him smooth out. He said, "You better listen to me. I don't care what these people got going on. You listen to me right now, or I'm going to tell them about how you be crying on my couch every night." Yikes. Because not only is he about to tell these people that you be on his couch because you don't either like your home. We never really understood why he wasn't at his house. But also, you be crying every night because you're scared. Hopper's friends in the background trying to be instigators talking about, "Don't let him do this to you, big dog. Put him down." Let me tell you something. Big Joe, okay, he not the one to be messed with. Joe said, "Do it, girl. Slap me." And Grandpa Joe makes it plain and simple right there and says, "You won't slap me or stop me from speaking because this is your courage." And he grabs his arm and shows the symbol that they've been touting the entire time that we know is a symbol of hate. He says, "This is your courage right here. You actually have none in real life." Mind you, the whole congregation is sitting right there, just listening to this the entire time. I'm not going to call them a congregation because this is not a church. However, I would love to see if they would have fed a starving baby because it's starting to look like there's some similarities. I'm done. I'm done. Back to the episode. But Grandpa Joe keeps riling him up so much so that Hopper eventually does slap him. And it is a loud slap. It's as if the palm and all 5 fingers made contact. He immediately looks like he regrets it though. Doesn't look happy that he just had to slap Grandpa Joe. And I said, "Oh, baby, this is it for you. You've officially lost the only person that genuinely loved you." And he knows it. And Grandpa Joe looks at the crowd and said, here's your king. He's yours. Now in the next scene, baby, if you were not leaned in yet, okay, I'm gonna need you to come back some because you're gonna have to lean in further. He walks into that room and a Jason Satan is sitting there and is like, I know you're not in here crying. I said, baby, when you met him, you said that the tears is what led you to him in the first place. He goes, your mouth is of a lion, but your courage is of a rabbit. Now he is starting to be read for filth, not only by the grandfather that he loved, well, grandfather figure, but now adjacent Satan is reading them. So Hopper yells at adjacent Satan because he still doesn't know who he is, an idiot. And he's like, all you do is yell in the shadows and we've never seen your faces. You're never there for the battles. Why don't you come and talk your mess to me in my face? Adjacent Satan goes, baby, I don't know who you yelling at because at the end of the day, I've been making hateful speeches since before you were even born, okay? He essentially tells him to respect the HBIC in this hole. I screamed. And then adjacent Satan tells him, and as for being in darkness, I invented darkness. He steps up, and this is when adjacent Satan's face is revealed. And we all know who that mustache belongs to. And what's tea is that when Hopper realizes who this is, he freaks out. And I said, so you really wasn't about that life, because you should be excited to see somebody that you're speaking like. You should be excited to see a like-minded individual, but you're not. And you know why you're not excited to see him? Because you know the things that he said were irrationally dangerous and bad for humanity in general. And that's why you're upset to see him. But guess what, babes? You just like him. Baby, the way he takes off down this street, honey, you would have thought he owed that man another $200 bill. He got out of there. I actually do love this concept of people that are awful folks meeting their heroes. I love this concept because, yeah, I know for a fact the people that I admire that have passed on, if I was to meet them, I'd be excited to see them. I wouldn't run in horror. Do you know why? Because they didn't murder 12 million people. That's why. They did not create a movement that got rid of generations of folks. That's why I would be excited to see people that I deem historic, positive figures. Child, I'm gonna have to watch SpongeBob or something after this. This is dark. So adjacent Satan now is standing at the podium, fully lit, baby. He's like, oh, I have come back like Voldemort at this point. And he's like, before I gave you recommendations, now I'm giving you orders. Tighten up. He tells him, you know what? Your little friend that you slapped, I don't think he actually understands what we're about to do. You need to get rid of him right now and anybody that looks like him, but him first. I want y'all to remember that this is the man that essentially raised him. And not only does he agree, but when adjacent Satan says, yeah, do it tonight when he's in his room, Hopper goes, I'll do it right now. Yikes. Then adjacent Satan goes, and this is just the beginning. He essentially tells him, child, we have several other KPIs and meetings that we need to do moving forward. It's going to be a long day. And Hopper gives the salute. And I said, yeah, it's time for you to go ahead and burn in hell. I'm not even sorry. I'm not going to say that I'm sorry. You're absolute trash. So he goes to Grandpa Joe's apartment and he's like, all right. So you done talked all that mess. You made me slap you on stage. I want you to understand we have gotten bigger and you're not going to be able to stop us the way that you thought you could stop us. Grandpa Joe was unfazed in this living room. Honestly, 10 out of 10. And this is when Hopper goes, we not only have the backing of the community, we also have the backing of somebody that you tremble at. And then he pulls out the weapon. Grandpa Joe goes, you know, even though you have that, you're going to need something bigger because I'm still not afraid of that. Even if you use it, you can never get rid of an idea with a bullet. He ate that up. He ate that up, honestly. And unfortunately, that little spiel didn't work because Hopper then does say, I'm actually made of steel and you don't know who I am now. And he shoots Grandpa Joe. And as Grandpa Joe is going to glory, he tells Hopper, yeah, you may have steel, but you ain't got no heart. And I said, damn, what a badass. Hopper goes back into the hall and now the photo of adjacent Satan is speaking to him and he's like, what did you get rid of tonight? And Hopper is like, vermin. He has completely removed humanity from someone that raised him. This is nuts. And he goes up to adjacent Satan's photo and says, it made me feel like I was immortal. To which adjacent Satan responds, we are immortal. Just then the police walk into the door, baby, and they go, Peter, we have a warrant for your arrest. Child, the police say we have a warrant out for your arrest for the murder of Nick, his friend that they turned into the martyr. And like a damn Scooby-Doo villain, this fool runs away after the police tell him to walk towards him calmly with his hands up. Nope, he runs away with the gun. He runs up the stairs and it only takes 2 shots and the police got him. Y'all already know what I said. Baby, I was in this office like, goodness no. The wicked lives are lonely. And even as he is sitting here preparing to go to hell, he is bleeding profusely out of his chest, talking about, y'all made a mistake. I made a steal. Baby, I ain't never seen steel bleed. So, hey, go ahead and pack your bags. It's hot down there. You've been sweating the whole episode, so you'll be used to it. And in the final scene, as Hopper is passing away, you see the shadow of adjacent Satan coming out of him and walking down the street. And as he is walking down the street, Rod Serling comes on and says, he is actually alive. He's alive in any place where hate and bigotry is spewed. So if you hear the things that he said being said in your time and place, understand that they are speaking life into him. And as Rod Serling's self-acclaimed Black play niece, I'd like to add on to his message. The foundation of ignorance is always fear. The foundation of hate is always the absence of love. And that fear is often present because unity is a bit closer than they'd like. So when you see the Satan-adjacent rhetoric, understand that scientifically, that means that fear is there because something is improving, something is progressing, something is happening to make people feel like old times are changing. And like a toddler trying to fight sleep after a long day at the park, eventually they give up. And that is when rest, rejuvenation, and healing can happen. So hold on, friends. The toddlers are dozing.